Hello, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be reading 3 August new release romances and telling you which ones I think are worth your time. This month is going to be a little different than months past though, because I'm going to be reading from authors who I either haven't had luck with in the past or who I have never read from before. Not necessarily a strategic move, it is more so that August is full of romance new releases, but just from authors that I just don't really have much experience with or just don't have good luck with. Hopeful that we're going to find a successful, amazing, incredible 5-star romance amongst these 3. So the 3 that I'm going to be reading are The Truth According to Ember, which is a book with a native main character, which I'm super excited about. Also have Haunted Ever After, which is a book about a haunted town in Florida, which sounds pretty promising. And then we have Daydream by Hannah Grace. I've had mixed luck with Hannah Grace in the past. Didn't love Icebreaker, but did really enjoy Wildfire. So I'm excited to see where Daydream ends up on my list of Hannah Grace books. Is it going to be a like? Is it going to be a hate? We shall find out together. Before we do that, I want to talk to you about today's sponsor, Aura, and it is a really important time to be doing so because hackers may have stolen the social security numbers of all Americans. Over 2.9 billion records were stolen from National Public Data, which offers personal information to employers, private investigators, staffing agencies, and others during background checks. The stolen records include so much personal information: full name, address, date of birth, social security number, phone number, along with alternate names and birth dates. And members of the hacker group have reportedly released all of this information for free online, which is incredibly violating to hear about, but even more frustrating when you think about the effects of this. Before this happened, before this leak, my information was compromised in some sort of data breach, not entirely sure which one, and I had to basically go to the police to file a report about having my identity stolen just to get one of the credit bureaus to take me seriously and get some of this fraudulent information off of my credit report. Talk about a pain in the neck. It's just not anything that you want to deal with. I don't even want to think about what's going to happen now that my information is most certainly, all of it, publicly available online. If you weren't taking precautions with your personal info before, this should be a huge wake-up call because you've never been more vulnerable online, unfortunately, than you are now. But I will say I'm not too worried about it for myself because ever since that first time something happened to me, I've been using Aura to keep me safe online. Aura alerts me if they find my phone number or social security number on the dark web. They're gonna let me know fast if anyone tries to access my credit or my bank accounts, and they give up to $5 million in identity theft insurance should the worst case scenario happen. They also provide a bunch of other features to keep you safe online, all inside one app. You can go to buy link to try 14 days for free. This will be enough time for Aura to find out if any of your personal information is exposed. Again, I highly recommend that you do this now because not only is National Public Data not going to do anything to help you, they probably aren't going to face any repercussions for this leak either. I'm not leaving myself and my family vulnerable to data breaches online. And if you don't want to either, again, go to aura.com/chandler.ainsley to try 2 weeks for free. Thanks again to Aura for sponsoring this portion of today's video. Okay, so the first book I decided to pick up is The Truth According to Ember. This is probably the book that I was the most excited to start. I wish I could say that it has been just a joy to read, but I just don't think that this is my kind of book, which sucks. Let me break it down for you, okay? So this one is about our main character, Ember. She is Native American. She is living in Oklahoma, and she is just not super happy with where she is at this point in her life. I believe she works at a bowling alley or something like that, and she is going to community college for accounting, but hasn't graduated yet, and she just wants a better job. So she applies for this job kind of on a whim, and she lies about her ethnicity. She says she's white. She's able to get a job really quickly as an assistant accountant or something like that, or maybe just an exec assistant, but she gets a really good job at a fancy company, and while she is en route to her interview, she ends up meeting this really handsome native guy, and she's he's literally dream guy material. He's hot as hell. What does she call him? Daddy or something like that? Native daddy? Something to that effect. She has to fight her feelings and attraction for him because there's a strict no fraternization policy in the company handbook or whatever. So the story is basically her coming into contact with this guy multiple times, having these chance encounters, them just being friends, even though she's attracted to him and he's probably attracted to her, and also her dealing with this job that she is ill qualified for because she lied about her qualifications. I don't really like when characters lie in books. That's kind of a red flag for me. I understand that everybody behaves differently. Lying, I just don't think works really well in a romance setting because the pinnacle and the core of love is honesty. It's bearing your soul, sharing the things inside of you that you don't share with just anyone. So to have lying be the basis for a relationship, have lying be kind of at the center of this person's identity, doesn't really sit well with me. I could maybe overlook the lying to get a job or whatever if she were really honest with him after the fact. She's not. On top of that, the way this book is written, it's not bad. It's just not my taste, I think is a really great way to put it. Writing is giving very much juvenile, kind of middle school senses of humor. It's just bizarre. I don't really know what I could possibly compare it to. And again, it's not I'm hating it, rolling my eyes the entire time, but I'm really just surprised at how this is written. It's genuinely unlike anything I've ever read. So I mean, I guess uniqueness for sure, but I was hoping for something a little bit more heartfelt felt. I don't know. Because this book does have like hard-hitting topics in it, you know? This character has to lie about her ethnicity to get the job. Like, I'm sure it's going to come up eventually, like near the end of the book. There's some missed opportunities here. And I'm not saying that like this book needs to be hard-hitting and it needs to all be about like identity politics and stuff like that. I'm not saying that. It's like perfectly fine though. Like, I'm going to keep listening to it. I'm going to finish it. I'm really disappointed, to be honest, that this is the first book we're starting with because I was really hopeful. I think that just means that we're in for a world of surprises, you know? Pretty much all of these books I know nothing about, or they're from authors that I haven't read from before. So adventures abound. This is really the first month, I think, that I haven't read any books by authors that I'm super familiar with. Hello friends, it's a different day, different t-shirt, same girl, same bed, because this is part of my night routine at this point. I feed my cats, I take my supplements, I light a candle, plug in an audiobook, and just have a good fucking time, okay? I finished The Truth According to Ember. Wanted to give you my final thoughts and also tell you my 28% thoughts on, I can never remember the name of books, Haunted Ever After by Jen DeLuca, which is the first book I think that she's written that's not in her like Renaissance Fair, Renaissance Festival series. So interesting stuff. First up, let's talk about The Truth According to Ember. I ended up liking the last 50% of this book more than the first 50%, which I guess is good. It didn't make up for the first 50%. No. Was this ultimately not a romance for me? Yes. But I am glad that this book exists for obviously multiple reasons. Love that we have a native romance written by a native author. We don't see enough of that in romance, and honestly, when I think about it, I'm not sure that I've ever read a romance with a native main character, which is crazy. So I'm really glad that this book exists. I also really liked the hero. I feel like he was very understanding of Ember, even with her like flaws, and he was just like really sexy when it came to like, you know, sexual encounters. So I did appreciate that. Like, I did like that aspect of this book. I do think the line caught up with Ember for sure. Like, I'm glad that that got worked out. I do feel like things were a little bit too conveniently wrapped up though, and I kind of would have liked, I would have liked to see more conflict. I just think generally speaking, the anxiety inducing portion of this book was never going to work for me. I don't like secret identity books for that reason. I don't like when characters lie to each other. It just doesn't work for me, even if it can be resolved in a way that's satisfactory. It's just never going to be like perfect. This book is also like really different than anything I've ever read. I said that in the first clip and I stand by that because this one is just like whimsical and lighthearted and like a little bit silly, and I can definitely respect that. It might not be what I'm personally looking for in a romance at the moment, but it's definitely not like a bad thing to have in a book, and I think a lot of people will actually really like this. So yeah, if you're someone who likes quirky characters or you like a lot of humor in your romance and you don't want anything that's like too serious, I think this is great. Oh, also I will say I really liked the side characters. I really liked Ember's aunt. I really liked her brother. Her brother was annoying, but like definitely a character who's needed to kind of show that Ember isn't really as silly as she seems. I'm not gonna get into like his character, but he was frustrating to read about, but so realistic, so I really appreciated him. Also, I believe that the love interest, his sister, is also pretty funny, and I liked that too. I say I believe. I'm pretty sure it's his sister, not like his niece that he's taking care of, but I liked it. I thought it was cute. I think I'm gonna give this some 3 stars. Like, it wasn't perfect for me, but I respect it. I feel like this definitely will find an audience, so enjoyed it enough. Let's talk about a book that I don't really know how to feel about, kind of like how I initially didn't know how to feel about The Truth According to Ember. I think it's just, you know, new to me author. I just don't know what to expect. Jen DeLuca is not a new to me author, but this is like, again, like a new book in a new series for her. And Haunted Ever After is about our 2 main characters, Cassie and Nick. Nick owns a coffee shop in this really small town. I think it's called like Bones Key or something like that. Boneyard Key. It's like a haunted town on the coast of Florida. Cassie is new to town, and she is not fixing up an older house, but she purchases an old house that is purported to be haunted. She's kind of going through an interesting time in her life. She works from home, and so she could kind of move anywhere. She was looking to like buy a house after her landlord was selling her house she was renting back in Orlando. All of her friends are like getting married and having children, and Cassie just kind of feels like she's behind. She doesn't really feel like she has her life together. Like, she does, because she's like, you know, I'm successful, I've got all these things, but like I don't have the same kind of life as my friends, and so I just don't really feel like we can connect on that level anymore. So she takes this opportunity. She's like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go buy the house where I like need to buy this house, you know, where house is affordable enough to be able to buy, which relatable girlfriend, I get that. Yeah, she like starts going to Nick's coffee shop, and she like parks her laptop there to do work, and they have this encounter where he's like, yo, are you gonna buy any fucking coffee? Like, you're just parking in my place of business and not actually spending any money. And then they like kind of have this like tentative bantery sort of friendshipy sort of thing going on. I wouldn't say friendship, but they have like this banter relationship going on, and it's an interesting enough story. I kind of like the setup. I like this idea of like this haunted town, this like, you know, spooky town in Florida. I think that's like an interesting semi-unique idea. I've never like thought about those two. They seem kind of incongruous. Like, when I think haunted town, I think like Salem. I think like East Coast, which I guess technically it could be the East Coast of Florida, but you know what I mean. Like, I don't think Florida. I don't think swamps and Disney World. But you know, I am liking this kind of like change of pace, this unique setting, and I am, yeah, curious to see where things go. I'll update you at 50%. I'll let you know how I'm feeling. Pepper will be there too. Okay, friends, I am 50% into Haunted Ever After by Jen DeLuca, and I think it's okay. I hate that we're not having more success, but that shit happens sometimes. And I feel like the past 2 videos, I've had 5 stars being the last book, so like Let's Pray the Daydream by Hannah Grace is a 5-star. Not holding out hope, but like fingers crossed. As we get deeper into this book, Cassie and Nick are like kind of dating, and Cassie is like kind of figuring out more about this town and about the ghosts living there. Like there's a ghost haunting her house, and she's like not able to charge her laptop at home. That was the laptop snafu that I kind of referred to earlier and didn't really know how to articulate, I guess, but she can't charge her laptop, which is why she's going to Nick's place of employment to like try to charge her laptop and like mooch off of his electricity and not get a drink. But they had sort of a, I don't want to say falling out situation, but like Nick comes over to Cassie's house. They have sort of like a, I don't want to say like break up because they're not like dating really. I mean, they are, but they're not like together. You know what I mean? Dating, but not committed. Anyway, she says something, he like kind of walks away and is weird, and then someone in town kind of explains why Nick is the way he is, and kind of explains how his like family and his ex-girlfriend like left town, and he's the only person who still lives here and still like appreciates the town for what it is, and Cassie's like more understanding of him, I guess. But I don't know, I just felt like it was kind of like a weird situation, him like getting kind of like, I don't know, just like cagey all of a sudden. I'm so torn. I wish that this book were either more emotional or more silly, leaning into the like haunting component, right? Because I feel like we're in kind of a weird middle ground. It's not like fun enough to be like a true like like spooky fun like haunted like story, but it's also not serious enough to where I'm really invested in Cassie and really invested in Nick. Like I want to care for Nick. I want to feel bad for him that like he's the only person in town left from his family and his girlfriend left town, but it's just yawning sick. I'm sorry, it just is. You know, I want to sympathize with Cassie too because, you know, she feels like she's in a different place in her life than her friends. Like there's one moment where she's like about to send a text. She's like typing up kind of the situation that she is having with Nick, and she decides not to send it because they're talking about like breast pumps or something. I don't know, like they're talking about being moms, and she's like, I can't relate to this and I don't want to like, that's not as important, like, or what I'm saying isn't as important as what's going on in the group chat. Like I want to sympathize, but it's just like there's not enough there for me to sympathize. It's just like the way the book is written. Now that I think about it, that's kind of a similar issue that I had when I read my first Jen DeLuca book, although I will say that one seemed a little bit more serious. I just don't feel like the balance is quite there for me of like silly fun with seriousness, and you can do that, right? Like read Tara DeWitt, she does that, she does a good job with that, but like not every author I think succeeds at that in a way that I like. I'm not saying that this author is unsuccessful at what she's setting out to do generally. Obviously there's a book for everybody. Maybe this will be like your perfect blend. I think if you like this author, I think you will like this book. I've not had like success with her stuff in the past, so I don't know. I'm gonna keep reading, I'm gonna finish it, and then we can move on to Daydream, which is the only book I'm reading physically for this video. I had to show you with my hands as if it wasn't obvious what a physical book is. Okay, hello friends, I'm in the car. I just got done with a Pilates class and I finished Haunted Ever After on my way there. I'm so torn with this book. Okay, one thing I have to say is that I kind of misunderstood and or maybe I tuned out just a little bit during this like one kind of crucial point in the book. I think I said that our hero is kind of like weird and abrupt and like leaves our heroine's house. That is true, but the reason that he does that is because he has this like weird misogynistic moment towards her, and it's basically like women shouldn't work, should only have babies, and it's just like very weird and out of character. They address this later and he's like, I don't know, it must have just been like a reaction to like my past and like stuff came up, whatever. We find out later on the reason that he says that, kind of out of his control. I don't want to spoil it for you, but that's not a belief that he holds himself. So like if you're worried about the misogyny that comes up, just don't worry, it's okay, it'll get resolved. I liked the haunting storyline. I liked the ghosts. I really liked the resolution with like the ghost that was specifically living in Cassie's house. I thought that was so cool. The problem is that I just didn't give a fuck about the romance, and like I know that I say that fairly often, but I don't think I can reiterate that enough for this particular book. Like I did not give a fuck about the romance. Neither character was bad. I actually really liked Cassie, and learning more about her, like I could just feel for her. She has like fertility issues, so especially when your friends are like going through pregnancy and all that stuff, like I understand obviously how shitty that can be. You feel like you're the only person who's like not having a kid. I just feel like her and Nick had kind of no basis for liking each other other than like pure attraction. It didn't really seem like they had a lot of shared interests. There wasn't a whole lot of time with them like going deep, and like I don't know, there just like wasn't that connection that I crave. Again, I hate to compare to other authors, but I like notice hints of like, I don't want to say Tara DeWitt in Jen DeLuca's writing, but like I think you could draw some comparisons for sure. And with Tara's writing, the characters have a puzzle pieciness, right? Like she does a really good job at finding characters, or writing characters I should say, that complement each other, right? Like let's say one character has a hard time opening up, the other character is an open book and like maybe teaches them how to do that. I just don't feel like I saw any of that between these two characters. Like I don't feel like I saw that level of connection, and again, no shared interest or anything, so it's like why should I care that these people want to get together? Like I give no fucks. He at one point, the hero is like not confessing his love, but he's basically like, I don't want to make this casual anymore, like I want this to be a thing. And I feel like that should have been a momentous moment, but I was just kind of like, okay, like whatever. The sex scene I like didn't want to listen to, which I think also says a lot. Actually it doesn't, because I half the time don't want to listen to the sex scenes anyway, just because they're never built up enough in most books. But this was fine. Like I'd probably give it like 2.5, 3 stars. Like that sounds, I feel like I just shit talked a book and like now I'm like, oh, that's 3 stars. Fine. Like it was just so fine that I'm like, I loved the other stuff, so that's why I think I'm bumping it a star. Like had we not had that fun storyline that resolved really cute, I think I would give this book 2 stars, but like whole story it's 3 stars. I think this would be good for Halloween. I do think this would be good for Halloween, but as it is, I'm just kind of like about it. Also, I'm kind of about this like weird light on my chin, but I can't really get rid of it. So anyway, I guess that's my sign to go home. I'm gonna start Daydream by Hannah Grace, and hopefully that one's 5 stars. Let's address the elephant in the room first. This book's supposed to come out on August 27th. I went to Barnes & Noble 3 days ago and I got this book. So I don't know what the fuck's in the water at the Arboretum, Austin, Barnes & Noble, but they put this shit out early. So I'm going to talk about it because I'm reading it. And it is an August release, okay? And if anything, this should help you decide whether or not you want to pick this one up, right? I mean, that's the whole point of these videos. So this book is about our two main characters, Hallie and Henry. Hallie is an aspiring author. She is an eldest daughter. She takes on probably more than she should. She just got a job working at a hotel part-time while she's in college, made a new friend. She's having a good time. She's also in charge of a couple of book clubs on top of being a student. So she's got a lot going on. To top it all off, she got dumped at the beginning of this book by her semi-long-term boyfriend, like of a year, but she wasn't even in love with him, so she didn't really give a shit. She's just like annoyed, honestly, that she couldn't have a relationship that she really enjoyed. She's like, I like romance, and yet I couldn't have one of my own. I didn't want to fuck this guy. What's that about? Henry, on the other hand, is a serial lady fucker. That's not a really nice way to put that. He fucks women, okay? He likes to have sex with ladies. According to the author's note, he has sort of like an autistic, ADHD, neurodivergent thing going on, although he doesn't have a formal diagnosis, and that's not going to happen in this book. He has those traits, so he's very like straightforward, and he's also having a hard time in one of his classes because of his ADHD traits. Like the way this teacher teaches just doesn't really line up with his learning style, and even though he tried to approach the teacher about like potentially figuring something out to where he wouldn't continue to like fail this class, he's failing this class that he's in. I think it's some sort of like art history class. I think what's going to happen, according to the back of the book, is that he is going to enlist her help, or she's going to offer to help him, again taking on probably more than she really should. So far, Henry and Hallie just have had a couple of situations or like run-ins with each other. I can't help but draw comparisons to this and the book that I just finished. They're no way similar, like plot-wise, but these two characters have random run-ins. They're not enemies, and yet they have so much more sexual chemistry, and like I want to see what happens between these two, you know? I don't know what it is about the author like writing these two, but I'm like, yes, I like this. And that's what I have to say about the book so far. I do like this. It is a fun time. I really do think that Hannah Grace is a good author. I know that a lot of people didn't love Icebreaker and thought it was bad and blah, blah, blah. I talked about Icebreaker actually in a recent video where I reviewed the most popular books of the Goodreads reading challenge so far this year. Icebreaker is like the most popular romance, I guess. And so many of y'all in the comments were kind of fucking rude about my opinion on that book. I said I give it 3 stars. I said it wasn't the best, but it's definitely not as bad as people try to make it out to be. And everybody's like, no, you're fucking wrong. It's terrible. I'm like, okay, first of all, cool down a little bit. Second of all, there are much worse books out there that are popular. Let me tell you. Fourthly, we don't need to get into it. It's not a comparison game. I'm just saying, I think that Hannah Grace, especially in that first book, had a lot of potential. I thought Wildfire was genuinely a solid romance, and I gave that one 4 stars. And this one is feeling very Wildfire-esque. Like, there are still a lot of characters to kind of remember, which is frustrating, but also that feels very genuine to the college experience. Like, you've got a lot of mutual friends. You have friends that are people that are dating some of your other friends. Like, everything's kind of interwoven and tangled up, and it just feels genuine to the college experience. And I was kind of surprised to learn via the synopsis of this book, not synopsis of the book, Hannah is English. She's not even American. And yet she does a pretty good job, I think, at writing the college experience. Fairly accurate. I don't know. I like these, okay? I think she does a good job at writing real shit. And that's kind of why I always come back to fucking college romances. That's why I'm writing my own college romance. I just love when authors take people and from the beginning show me that they're real, right? Like, give me characters who've got family who is complicated, family who contributes to their view of romantic relationships, family who provides interesting familial relationships to you. Like, oh, I don't know, maybe like you have a sister who's got ADHD and you're like helping her with a paper. Like, there's so many details in here that feel real, that are like real things that happen to people. And I'm not saying that that isn't present in other books, but it's just like, it just feels so much more real when people are trying to figure out their life and also trying to figure out love at the same time. And I know that that's the point of every fucking romance ever, but what is it about college books that just do it better? I don't know. I don't really know, but I love them. Okay, they have a special place in my heart, and I really think this is solid. Like, I'm very much enjoying this. I'm gonna get 50% in tonight in the bathtub, actually, because I need to cleanse myself. I'm going to the dermatologist tomorrow to make sure that none of my moles are cancerous. Take care of your skin, people. I'm pleased to report that I am skin cancer free and back to do my makeup and tell you my 50% thoughts on Daydream. I'll just put a picture right here. Honestly, kind of kicking myself that I'm having to put a picture right here. It's like when I physically own the book, I love holding it up. Less editing work for me. This book fucking rocks. I was already enjoying it, but I'm enjoying it even more. This book isn't like anything wild when it comes to plot. There is sort of like a fake dating plotline, I guess, because our heroine is helping our hero with his like schoolwork, and in return, he is helping her get like a dating experience so that she has experience to write about for her romance novel that she's working on. Like, could be corny, I guess, theoretically, but just the way it's executed really is not. I also appreciate that even though our heroine is like into books, she's not annoying about it. I feel like oftentimes when authors try to make characters in books into romance novels, especially, I don't know if they like try to do that to make the characters seem relatable, because like obviously if we're reading these books, we're, you know, romance readers, blah blah blah. I feel like they tend to make the heroines like talk about it too much, or like talk about romance tropes too often, and this isn't really happening in this book, which I appreciate. I think what is really keeping me captivated about this book though, again, is how real this story is. There's a moment where our heroine has some like insecurity about her personality and or popularity. A lot of her friends that she had were kind of through her ex-boyfriend, and obviously once they broke up, she didn't really have friends anymore and had to like find new friends and develop friendships at college, which is, you know, I feel like kind of relatable in some ways. Maybe not to me personally, but I can understand like not having friends. I feel like we all sometimes feel that way. There's a very specific moment in this book where our heroine is like, I don't know if she's invited out by him, but he is like at this party. This happens like 2 separate times, and eventually she gets kind of like insecure about it and brings it up to him, and she's like, honestly, this is gonna sound stupid, but like the fact that you haven't invited me to places and I've just been there makes me feel a little bit insecure and like stupid almost. Like, I can't tell if you actually like hanging out with me or if I'm just like inserting myself where I don't belong. And he just is kind of forgetful. It's like part of, you know, his ADHD, and just like honestly it slips his brain to invite people places, but he really likes her and he tells her that. And I like that she was able to be really honest with him, and it was just such a relatable moment. I just feel like oftentimes whenever there are, I don't know, miscommunication moments or moments where someone has an insecurity, I feel like they're not often handled as well and as real as this book is doing it. And I'm just honestly so impressed by that. And I don't know, there's just like so many moments where I've been like, yeah, that would be something that would happen in real life, or those are insecurities that feel totally realistic to me, not necessarily to like my own personal experience, but like, yeah, it totally makes sense. You know, like after talking to friends who have been in relationships, just like the things that tend to come up, I don't know, it's surprising to me that like these really common issues are not discussed, I guess, in books. I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot, but I do think it needs to be reiterated that like that is crucial to my enjoyment of a book, is like how real the conflicts feel and how real the characters feel. And I also, I don't know, there's just other moments and other things in this book that make it feel so realistic to me, like the group chats. There's like a moment where they're kind of like harassing Henry about his crush on Hallie in the group chat, and I don't know, that just felt like very realistic to me as well. I'm really liking this, y'all. I think it's really fun. I also really like communication about consent and the way that Henry treats Hallie. Like, she tells him, hey, I haven't had sex before, but I'm definitely like down to do it in the future. And he's like, okay, sounds cool. Like, there's so much that we can do that isn't like penetrative. I am very much vibing with this book. So I will finish it. I'll get back to you. My makeup will be done. All the things. 5 stars. Yeah, and it's not that I feel like we needed a 5-star in this video. I mean, it is, like, that is a thing. That's not influencing my decision to give this book 5 stars. This was just truly fucking excellent. And I'm gonna say it again. Anyone who hates on Icebreaker, like, kind of fuck you, honestly. Like, do I think that book is maybe overhyped for what it is? Maybe. But I also am going to respect the fact that that's an author's debut and she's making bankage from that. And like, she did the damn thing, you know? She like had a vision. She wrote a book. and it's really popular, okay? And it's like really easy, obviously, to hate on popular things. I've definitely been guilty of doing it in the past, and I'm sure I'll do it again in the future. But for some reason, this book I just think gets undue hate, especially because of its cover. And I just don't think that is entirely fair, okay? I'm never gonna say that's my favorite book. It's like 3 stars for me. But Wildfire, 4-star read. Daydreamer, 5-star read. She's getting better with every book. That's incredible. Good for her. So much of this worked for me. I felt like both characters had things that they needed to work on throughout the course of the story, given their flaws, I guess. Our hero is definitely someone who has a hard time coping with his emotions and feelings. And over the course of the story, he learns slightly better coping mechanisms. I would have liked to see maybe a little bit more of that on page, but he definitely like goes into a space of his own to kind of change some of his behaviors and then comes back better for it. And then our heroine learns how to stand up to her family, how to say no, and she also builds really deep and meaningful friendships, which she has craved her entire life after she gets out of a bad relationship. And I found that so inspiring and just so realistic, honestly. Like all of the parts of this book, okay, maybe not all of the parts of this book, but a lot of the parts of this book are just really realistic and I think send like really good messages. Like there's such great messages about consent in this book. I love that our hero doesn't really fall into any toxicity. Like there is a scene where he has to confront Will, who is Hallie's ex. So they're both like on the ice and Will is like getting up in Henry's face and saying nasty things about Hallie. Henry doesn't try to fight this guy. Like that's not what he's about. He is very respectful in the way that he talks about Hallie. He doesn't try to like say gross things back. And I feel like I see that often. You'll have 2 characters confront each other on the ice or on the football field and, you know, the ex says something gross and then hero kind of says something gross right back. Like you're just mad you aren't fucking her. Like Henry doesn't do that. Like that's just not his style. And I really appreciated that. I love the grand gesture that Henry ends up doing at the end of the book. I love the support that Hallie has from her friends when her and Henry are like kind of not broken up, but just like not together for parts of this book. I liked this so much. I think this is so charming. I can't wait for y'all to pick this up when it comes out. It's crazy to me, again, that I have a copy and this is not an ARC, like this is a finished copy that I got from Barnes & Noble. So good, like genuinely so good. So glad to have this on my shelves and I'm very excited to see Hannah Grace publishes next. Like I think she might be, I don't want to say a new favorite author of mine, but she's one that I'm definitely going to watch out for. Dare I say I'm going to put whatever her next release is on my most anticipated for next year because I genuinely think that she is a solid author. I fucking love this. I thought this was really, really good. So if you're looking for a new adult college romance with a lot of heart and a lot of realism, I would definitely pick this one up. Only thing that I think might turn some people off is that this is not exactly like a fast-paced romance. There's definitely a slow burn involved. There is a lot of normalcy on the page. Like if you're looking for something that feels really novel, very tropey, very smutty, like this probably isn't going to scratch that itch for you, but I think that's okay. Like that's not really what I'm looking for in a romance. I'm fine with slice of life stuff. It doesn't have to be fast paced and like super crazy plot. This one doesn't have that, but yeah. So I don't know if I said, but heroine has a ragdoll cat that he is obsessed with. I mean, it was going to be a 5 stars for that just alone, but so good. So good. So, this was an interesting one, y'all. I feel like I say that most months at this point, but I feel like I have not seen such a large rift between the really, really good book in a video and the not so great books that I read for these new release videos. Not telling you that you shouldn't read Haunted Ever After or that you should skip The Truth According to Ember. I think both of those books definitely will appeal to people, but they are just like a little bit more specific than I think that Daydream is. I mean, I guess you have to be into new adult to like this, and I do think that's becoming, I think, increasingly less common amongst what people like. I know people really like hockey college romances, but like for the most part, new adult kind of is under the radar at the moment. I could be totally off base on that, but that's kind of what it feels like. Anyway, that being said, I had a really good time with this. I love finding new romances to love and to recommend to all of you. Stay tuned, actually, because I'm going to be doing some mood reading, some romance mood reading for the next video that you see. But thanks so much for watching this one. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.